I'd like to call the meeting to order. Will you please rise and we'll say the pledge together.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you.
Mr. Ward?
Here.
Mr. Workman?
Yes.
Mrs. Regola-Dye?
Yes.
Mrs. Getzman?
Yes.
Dr. Bennett?
Yes, thank you. And I'd like to welcome everyone this evening. Thank you for coming on this beautiful day. Nice to have you. And I would entertain a motion to approve the minutes of our last meeting, August 21st.
So moved.
Thank you, Mrs. Regola-Dye. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Thank you, Mrs. Getzman. Were there any corrections? Hearing none, would you call the roll, please?
Mrs. Regola-Dye?
Yes.
Mrs. Getzman?
Yes.
Mr. Ward?
Yes.
Mr. Workman?
Yes.
Dr. Bennett?
Yes, motion carried. Thank you. And we have communication and recommendations.
Yes, thank you. We do have some communications this week. Every month, generally, we have one of our buildings come and share. Because it's September, it's so early in the season, we're blessed to have our friends from the YMCA here today. And so, as the board knows, that we work together with the Y and with the city of Mount Vernon to provide a summer camp experience, an educational summer camp experience. Emily and Nick were just instrumental in that process. And so I asked them if they would just come and share with us a little bit about that summer camp experience and kind of share a little bit and maybe what their future might be. So with that, I'll introduce Emily and Nick to the podium.
Well, thank you. I get the easy part. My name is Nick Clark. I'm the executive director of the Y, so I just get to say thank you. I've served in a number of capacities with Bill throughout the community, and he's so easy to work with, and he's such a visionary, and that's a breath of fresh air. So thank you, Bill, for the partnership and the willingness to have the conversations. I worked at the Y for a little over 18 years. So I started when I was 10. I worked at the Y for a little over 18 years, and so this is what I've learned about collaborations in that time. The Y's had a number of collaborations over that time, some good, some bad, and really a couple key things that I've learned. Number one, they're very, very easy to talk about and very hard to execute in a really meaningful way. And two, I think what we created here between the city schools, the YMCA, and the city is that really meaningful partnership, that really meaningful collaboration where we all found a way to operate within our wheelhouse to create something better than any of us individually could have. And that's the true mark of a rare collaboration, and that's really what happened. So again, I just get to come say thank you today and tell you from my experience, it is rare. We are part of a lot of conversations where collaboration is the operative word, and I think collaboration, again, is something so easy to say, and it's very natural to say, a little bit more difficult to pull off, but trust me when I tell you that what was pulled off this summer is rare, and that all parties really created something greater than any of us could individually. So with that, I'm going to hand it off to Em. She's going to fill in some of the details. Thank you.
Thank you, Nick.
All right, as you can see, we have some pictures just to, sometimes it's good to see, with our own eyes, some of the things that happen throughout summer camp. So hopefully those are fun to look at. But Nick really hit the nail on the head. I think we've, talked with many organizations in our roles at the YMCA and how can we better partner. And I will say in my 11 years at the YMCA, this has been the first most natural and easiest partnership to pull off. We have had some amazing partnerships that we love and rely on in the community, but when we walked into the middle school in probably July or so, or maybe actually school was still going on, wasn't it? May. All my months are off. But when we walked into the middle school to kind of do a deeper tour and meet some of the staff and talk through details, from that day on, everyone just welcomed us with open arms. The staff in the middle school, I can't say enough good things about. The office staff, the custodians, the lunch staff that we had this summer just went above and beyond and made relationships with the kids and engaged. It was like we had duplicated our Y staff and talked about our mission and all of this together, but we were just two entities coming together, and it was very much smooth and just we were all on the same page. Also, I didn't mention the bus staff. The bus staff was phenomenal. I think at the end of the slide, there's a picture of Dalby waving. He, of course, had music on and, got to know the kids. But truly everyone that I worked with or Morgan Roberts, our program coordinator, worked with, it was just amazing that the partnership was so smooth and natural. We also partnered with several other organizations just to go a little further into what summer camp looked like. So we had a partnership, of course, with the city school district. We had a partnership with the public library, which was just a very fitting and also a natural partnership. So we went to the library every Monday, and their staff was phenomenal to work with. They would pull books out that related to our theme week. So we had 8 different themes throughout the summer. They would do that in advance. They came up with fun crafts and would do a read aloud and let the kids pick out a couple books that we got to take back to the middle school, which was just awesome to be able to really foster that partnership and have, quiet time for the kids to have their own books that they chose at the library. So that was fantastic. We also had New Directions come in once a week, and they talked about healthy relationships. They did fun activities with the kids, and our kids really got to know the New Directions staff, and they definitely fostered healthy relationships and were really good role models to have. We also had OSU Extension, so Tanner Cooper Risser came in and did food demonstrations every Thursday. He would make some kind of fun, healthy snack that would surprise the kids. Like, I think he did black bean brownies one day, and the kids were all like, these are good. Oh, wait, what? There are beans in this? But it was fun to see them kind of like learn, light up and learn new things about healthy food, and that was a great piece that we were able to pull off too. And then Nick mentioned the city of Mount Vernon, so we got to go swimming 3 days a week at Hiawatha. And that, of course, was the icing on the cake for all the kids. Everybody loves to swim, so swim days were always a very excitable day at summer camp and just, a very popular day. So I'll go back to a little bit of history. I think it was probably 7 or 8 years ago when we decided to discontinue the summer camp offering. And the purpose behind all of that is we didn't feel great at the time. We want to have high quality offerings. We didn't feel great about the full product. We felt really good about the physical education piece, but the education and curriculum was a little bit of a weak spot for us. And I think that's where this partnership really comes full circle, where we can tap into each other's talents and pull something off as awesome as Summer Adventure was this summer. So this is our second year of Summer Adventure after we took a long break. So we did the first year in our sports center facility, and it worked. It wasn't ideal space, and we didn't have much room to grow or expand the offerings. So the opportunity to come to the middle school was just a whole new vision. We got to dream about how many kids can we serve and how can we we didn't have to ask them to pack lunches even through the school district, through the lunch program, which as a parent too, that's like, okay, I can not, think about all these extra things or extra barriers. So that partnership really just developed a whole new level of excitement for me and for our program staff. And it did. It really offered that growth. So I'm sure you all have talked about the program in your meetings, but we were able to add 12 kids onto every week of summer camp. So we went from 36 to 48 through the scholarship with Mount Vernon City School District. And it was also really fun and exciting to see the variety of kids that walked through the door. We got to just, see some kids who wouldn't have been able to come if it wasn't scholarshiped. And to be able to serve them in that way last summer was something that will impact me forever, and I know the rest of our staff. That's actually my son. And I'll say too, my kids and Nick's son was at camp. Our kids are our worst, or our biggest critic, right? So when they're saying summer camp was fun, I'm like, okay, I can breathe a little bit better. It's not made up in my head. Everyone's having fun, because my kids would tell me for sure, I will say. I'll walk us through a typical day of camp, and then I think I'll leave you with a story. But when we didn't have our field trips or extra pieces that were built into our special guests that came into our camp day. We started every day off in a center circle and talked about the WISE core values. So the WISE core values are honesty, respect, caring, and responsibility. And we had one of our staff take those core values each day. We made them all do it and just go a little bit deeper into what that means to them and talk to the kids about what does this mean to the kids. And then they would do an activity to just kind of really, ground that mission in. And then we did some fun physical activity just to get them warmed up for the day. We always did a morning snack. And then we broke up into groups, and typically we were in 4 groups, and we did an arts and crafts area, a STEM activity, a reading activity, and a writing activity. And they just kind of cycled through stations. We were lucky enough through the middle school to have 2 classrooms, which was very helpful. And I should have started by saying we were serving K through 5. I think maybe everyone knew that. But so typically we would break them up K through 2 and then 3 through 5 in the different groups to hopefully accommodate the different levels of learning that the kids could do. So that was always so great to have the classrooms. If you're familiar with our sports center facility, it's really just a big open gym and then a mezzanine. So the space wasn't ideal for learning. It was ideal for physical education, so that was always simple for us to pull off. But I just can't say enough about the space at the middle school and how amazing that was to really pull off all of our goals for summer camp. And lastly, I will leave us with a story. So one of the kids that we got to meet week 1 at summer camp was through the school scholarship. And we didn't get to meet the parents. He came by cat, so he had public transportation bring him to camp every morning. And he always had the biggest smile and was just so happy to be at summer camp. And he stole our hearts day 1. And all of the camp staff just fell in love with this kiddo. He was just so sweet. And throughout the summer, or throughout the week 1, actually, his mom messaged a couple times and just said, hey, is it possible that he can come any other weeks? And most of the kids through the school scholarship came 2 weeks, and then that way we could serve more kids throughout the summer. And at first, we filled up, day 1 when we opened our registration. So we were at first like, okay, we're full, but once we got another message from his mom, we're like, we have to figure this out. He's coming to summer camp all summer. I don't care if we're paying for it or who's paying for it. This kid needs to be at summer camp. So we said, yes, bring him all summer. He can come all 8 weeks. He never missed a day of camp. He was there every single day. There was one day he was there every single day. There was one day that public transportation was shut down for Juneteenth, and he and his mom walked to summer camp several miles. And he came late, but he showed up, and she said he wouldn't miss it for the world, and this has been the best summer for him. We did an experiment week 1 grossology, and we were eating bugs. It was disgusting. And however, this kiddo loved the bugs. He just kept wanting more bugs and kept asking if he could take the bugs home. So at the end of the week, we, and of course it raised a little bit of a concern. Is he hungry? What is he going home to? We didn't know the full story. And so we packed him up a box with all extra food that we could kind of, get together that we had throughout the week, from snacks and anything that we could send him home with. And we whispered to him like, hey, we put the bugs in your box. And he just jumped and celebrated. He was so pumped to take these bugs home. But the family accepted food. We ended up doing that every Friday. We sent them home with any extra food that we had from our snacks or, for camp. The whole school staff and the WISE staff really just took him under their wings. And it wasn't just him, it was all 48 kids, but he's just one that really stood out. So thank you so much for the partnership. I'm happy to answer any questions that you all may have, but we genuinely are so thankful to continue this partnership. So, yeah.
I have 2 questions. First, how much per child does the camp cost for the full 8 weeks?
Sure, that's a great question. So we charged weekly, so you can sign up for 1 week or all week. So the kids each week were potentially a new group of kids, if that makes sense. So the weekly cost is $140 if you are a Y member and $165 if you are not a Y member.
Okay, thank you. And the second question is, what in heaven's name were the children doing with 20 mule team borax.
Slime.
Oh, okay.
Making slime. That's their favorite, one of their very favorite
I
things.
very rarely see that anymore. So that was
That's a valid question. Any other questions?
What time was the program? How long did it last?
Yeah, so we opened our doors at 8 a.m. Camp hours were from 9 to 4, but kids could be dropped off an hour early and picked up an hour late. So 8 to 5 was the whole range of availability.
Oh, one other question. If someone wants to contribute to a scholarship for a child, how can they go about doing that?
Yeah, absolutely. So you could get in touch with me or Nick or anyone at the Y, and you could, if you wanted to pay for a week, and just indicate that it was for YMCA Summer Adventure.
Okay, thank you.
And you can, there's a link on your board agenda, you can go through and look at these questions. I'll plan a few questions for Emily. So, Emily, what's your future vision of the program as you look forward?
Yeah, so I definitely have thought about that a lot. I think our vision is incremental growth. So we don't want to grow too fast. We don't want to, you know, get in over our heads and not be able to offer the quality that we were really able to do this summer. So I definitely want to see incremental growth, which raises, you know, bigger questions and conversations. How many kids can fit on a bus? We were pretty packed into one bus. Oh yeah, the picture is just of Dalby. I had another picture, but I don't think that's on this slideshow. But you know, what is the ability to really grow in that respect as far as bus sizes and pool memberships and things of that sort. But my other, I think, big goal with this program is additional educator involvement. So we were also, through the partnership, able to tap into some educators through Mount Vernon City School District. And we're so thankful to be able to have some of the staff who just had that classroom experience and knowledge and working with kids. That was truly special to add into our staff. I would love to see some teachers even come in for one experiment or one activity if they don't want to commit to, you know, a summer job or whatnot, but really just come in and do something really special and unique. And I would love to be able to tap into educators' talents in that way to really, you know, drive that education piece home even more.
It's kind of ironic today that I have a whole bunch of future teachers behind us, MVNU juniors here who, and again, we told our teachers as well. I mean, sometimes when teachers are done at the end of the year, it's like, oh, I need a break, and they do. And yet at the same time, Emily was really good about saying, hey, if you can come for 1 week or 2 days, or again, you don't have to commit yourself to 8 weeks, but for this to grow a little bit or incrementally, staffing will be critical.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, the facility will be the facility, but having the right number of people to support the growth, I think, would be incredibly important.
Yeah.
Sounds like it was a success.
Anybody else have any questions? Well, I think I would probably speak for Nick in a similar role in our leadership roles that once you put the right people in place and you let them do their thing, I had very little to do with this. Nick probably was able to hand it over to Emily, and we got great staff at the middle school, the bus garage, Dalby here. I heard nothing but compliments from our side of this equation, and short of meeting and just collaborating, I had very little input. It's people like Emily that make this thing work and her staff. So thank you, Emily, for all that work.
Thank you.
Thank you again for the partnership.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming. Okay, we have Mateo here to do our senior class president for student government.
Yes, so just a short update on what's going on at the school. So looking in the past month, we had a blood drive, which was very successful. Key Club, of course, ran that, as with most of the things. And fall sports, our volleyball team is doing great. We have an 11-3 season for them, so they're doing excellently. And then currently, we also have the band showcase, I should mention that as well. And currently, we are looking forward to homecoming, which we are planning out. It's quite a bit of work. We got our ticket sales people down and designing the tickets and such. The bonfire is Wednesday. It's going to be the first week of October, so that whole week. We have the bonfire scheduled for Wednesday, the game of course on Friday, and the dance on Saturday, and there's a spirit week associated with that you can plan it as well. And looking into the month after that, November, we also are planning the Powder Puff game. That's just a short update.
Well, welcome aboard, Mateo.
Yes,
Appreciate
good to
it.
be here.
Yeah. There might be a,
I was gonna say, didn't you just receive some?
well, I think there'll be a picture of him maybe coming up.
Okay, all right,
Yeah.
thank you.
So
Wonderful.
you're always welcome to leave when you're done, but you may want to hang around for the
Yes.
finish of my
Absolutely.
district update.
That's pretty special. Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you so
Yeah.
much. And is Jessica here?
You'll see Jessica or Mike tonight.
And we have one who signed up for public participation, Michelle Mood.
Hi, some of you know me. I'm Michelle Mood, mom to 2 students in the district, one already graduated. I'm here to speak on freedom. Freedom is the touchstone of our society. We Americans see everyone as deserving of freedom, and everyone as capable of handling the responsibilities of freedom. So what is freedom for education? It's freedom to question, to explore, and to learn. How can my children learn without solid representation of the world in our school libraries? Freedom does include responsibility. Each family, each parent can judge a book and limit their child's exposure to it. But many have spoken to this board on behalf of censorship and control, eliminating books for all, when they have a problem with it. Let them keep such books from their children. But by what right do they limit my children's freedom to explore and learn? The right to a public education was seen as so important to the founders of the state of Ohio that it is enshrined in our state constitution. It is a sacred right. Even our state Supreme Court has affirmed this time and time again. Why is education so important to the state of Ohio? Because that is the foundation of our free society. Freedom and learning. Freedom in learning. This is what a civic community needs. At its core, the freedom to read empowers individuals to become informed and active participants in their society. It encourages critical thinking, enabling readers to question assumptions, challenge established norms, and engage in thoughtful discussions. It equips us, our children, and our future decision makers and voting citizens with the tools needed to navigate an increasingly complex world, making informed decisions and advocating for positive change. Instead, we have minority views strangling our public school educators and librarians. Don't like a book? Individual parents can opt out even when a book isn't assigned in class. But please, I'm asking for the community to stop interfering with the freedoms in public school. I'm not forcing a view on your kids, but you're forcing a view on my kids. Let's keep America free and stop the book bans. Our strength is in our freedom. Some of you know I'm a China scholar. I've spent 4 years there. Freedom is the lifeblood of America, and we stand as a beacon to the world. Our strength is in our freedom. Our strength is in allowing each family to wisely use their freedom and judgment. Don't do it for me, don't do it for others. Don't invade our freedoms. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
We have no board items for information or approval this evening, but we do have some additions.
We do. We have 3 additions to the agenda tonight. One is a donation by Gay Street United Methodist. The other is in our facilities section. It's Holly Trackman's camp book a lot or something like that. I'll share it with you when we get there, but it's really a neat thing that she does. And then we have one determination of transportation and practicality. So as we get to those sections, I'll certainly share those with you. Under items for information, I have a district update, and I'll try to go really quickly through these. I think they're really kind of they're exciting things to be able to share with you. And the first is just this week, the school report cards came out. And so we put certainly some stock into report cards. We don't put all our stock into that, but we are very proud of our efforts as it relates to Mount Vernon City Schools. It is a measure. It's not the only measure. And if you recall from last year, they made a change to this. The rating system kind of falls with 1 star through 5 stars. And 1 star means you need significant support, with 5 stars meaning you're significantly exceeding state standards. And so they rate you on 6 criterion measures as it relates to that on the state report card. I'm proud to say that Mount Vernon City Schools had an overall designation. This is the first year for the overall designation of 4 stars for the district. That includes grades 3 all the way through grades 12. And you can see across the top, here are those 6 measures. We got 4 stars in achievement, 4 stars in progress, 5 stars in gap closing. Our graduation rate is 3 stars. And again, 3 stars means you're meeting the state standards. 4 means you're exceeding the state standards. 5 means you are way over the top. Our early literacy scores fall in line with the rest of the state, and there's some interesting correlations that can be shared relative to that. And they're still working on the college and career workforce and military readiness. Just to give you an idea what that means for us, though, here is our building report card designation. So each building then gets designated on these as well. And so you see as you look across the top, Columbia Elementary, achievement are those Ohio State test scores that we take. Progress is value added, that's growth from one year to the next. Gap closing is we're trying to close the gap between our special subgroups. Those could be students with disabilities, economically disadvantaged. It may be our ELA kind of students. Graduation rate and early literacy. Obviously, we don't graduate from Columbia, so no elementary will get a score in that section. But as you look across here, you'll see some of our scores, and I'll highlight a few of these in a second. But you look at Dan Emmett, you've got East Elementary, Mount Vernon High School, Mount Vernon Middle School, Pleasant Street, Twin Oak, and Wiggin Street. The couple that I want to highlight, these are some really improvement areas from what was already a really solid grade card from last year. Last year in achievement, now those are the test scores. You'll notice that as you went all the way down through, we had 2 5 stars, we had 4 4 stars, and we had 2 3 stars. 1 year later, we're now up to 4 5 stars, which is that highest mark you can get. And then a number of 4 stars, and then others that are meeting state standards. When you look at gap closing and closing the gap for those kind of groups that we talked about, in 2001 and 22, we had 5 stars. We're now all the way up to 6 stars that are exceeding or at that 5 level. And then the one I think that is probably we're most proud of, and I'm proud of Dan Emmett Elementary. Dan Emmett, and this is a 2-year, so last year they scored a 4 in achievement, this year they scored a 5. Last year they scored a 3 in value added progress, this year they scored a 5. Last year they scored a 3 in gap closing, this year they scored a 5. And if you're aware of Dan Emmett, it's in a socioeconomic climate of our community that is a little lower perhaps than others. And yet these scores, 5, 5, and 5, is something that Mrs. Ark and her staff and students should feel incredibly proud of, really proud of. And if you go back, some of our other Wiggin Street and East also had 5s across the board. So kudos to all of those schools. I thought this was really important. So this is performance index trend. These are on state report cards. And what you'll notice from 2020, you'll notice that we continue to grow, or we're trending in a positive direction the last 4 years. I think what's even more interesting to look at, there are 5 areas. This advanced plus area is something that's kind of new, but there were 5 areas. You could be limited, you could be basic, or limited, basic, accomplished, proficient, and advanced. Well, what you notice here as a district, as we've continued to climb upwards, our advanced students are increasing, and you'll notice that our limited students is decreasing. So when you just take a short look back, we had quite a few more limited students back here, and we had a smaller number of advanced students. Here we are, fast forward 4 years, and I feel like we're heading in that right direction. And so that's kind of exciting to see. The Ohio Department of Education always comes up with what they call their similar district methodology. So they take a look at districts throughout the state of Ohio, and they base it on these 7 measures: your enrollment, your percent of population in urbanized districts, population density, gross income, that's an economic component, and you can see the rest of those 7. So we have a group of 20 that we're compared to throughout the state of Ohio. And when you take a look at that, we're sitting right now at number 3 out of those 20 similar districts, and really close to being right there at the top. I mean, if we could kind of sneak out a graduation rate, which is a really tough one for us, and there's some reasons behind that, that we have to, that's really a challenge for us. But to see where we're at across the board is, it's really exciting. It's very positive. And you know some of these other districts, as you look down through here. Here's one in our conference. I mean, you know, they're sitting there at the 3s and the 2s, and there's others that are in a similar way, but I feel like we're positioned in a pretty good place right now. This is also kind of interesting to look at it if you kind of granularly go down a little deeper. Here's 3rd grade. You'll notice our district is in red, our similar district group is in blue, and the state average is in yellow. Well, here we are in 3rd grade. We're significantly at the top of that group. Take a look at 4th grade. You'll see we're kind of at the same. You know, we're going to be higher than our similar districts and the state. You look at 5th grade, they test in 3 areas: math, English, and science. And again, you see the trend where we're really performing well compared to our similar districts and the state average. Again, it's 6th grade. 7th grade is an area we're working on, and we need to work on this area a little bit. We're right there in math, ELA, we've got some work to do. But what you'll notice is in 1 year, in 8th grade, we bounce right back. And so here we are, you know, up in these upper areas in that performance index calculation. So again, good things to share. The high school looks very similar. And so at the high school in Algebra 1, here we are compared to our similar districts in the state average. Same with biology, American and U.S. history, English language arts, geometry, and then here's American or government. So the high school is making some really nice gains as well, staying well above the state average in our similar districts. So all that to say, we're proud of their efforts, and we won't rest on those efforts. We still have areas we can improve upon. But you know, as you kind of keep climbing, it gets harder to keep climbing. Value added is an interesting score, and while we did really well on some of that, that's a year's worth of growth. So maybe we achieved 1.5 years worth of growth. That would get you a 5. But then that becomes your new benchmark for the next year. You've got to take that and you've got to grow it even more. So you do see a little bit of a yo-yo effect when it comes to that progress or value added report.
I think we ought to give our teachers and administrators a hand for.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they did a great job.
I do want to always keep the board updated on the continual process with our review. So we've been meeting with our library folks here this past month, and we continue to tweak some work relative to that. Tonight, I hope, we're going to approve a second reading of the challenge process. And again, if you recall, that was really to provide an intermediary step so we didn't have to go straight to a committee review. And that gives them a little bit more autonomy to kind of work with folks relative to that. And I thought I'd share tonight just a couple quick things, selection guidelines, where we're at there. And again, we talked about this because we really never had what I would call a good set of guidelines just to support our librarians when they select books. And we've started to work on some different kind of ratings that might help. I'll share quickly what that looks like. We're not done yet, but I thought I'd share really quickly what that looks like. And then here's one I'm going to mention right now that kind of takes on both sides of this conversation. Licking Valley has developed kind of a unique system to where they will allow parents, if the parents choose, that they would have to approve the books of their children prior to them checking them out. Now currently, anytime a student checks out a book, we send home an email notice, which is, I think, a wonderful communication piece. But there may be some parents who still are concerned and they want to know what their children are checking out before they check them out. There's a system that Licking Valley uses that kind of allows parents who want to choose that for themselves to be notified before a book is given to them. And again, that's their choice. We're not making that choice for everybody, but that's their choice. And conversely, there's another interesting option. Maybe there's parents who are perfectly fine with their children being more challenged than maybe what we currently can offer. And so we may have high school books that are more high school oriented. If we have a very mature 8th grader and that parent wants their child to have access to those books, the same could be true. And we talk to our librarians about how tough or easy would it be if a middle school student said, hey, there's a book at the high school I'd really like to read. If the parents are okay with that, we can do an interlibrary exchange. So we can support both ends of the concerns about parents who want to have more freedom to know what their kids are reading and those who want their children to even explore further. So kind of an interesting kind of a concept that we're working on. We're actually working on that with LACA and the Management Council to try to make that an electronic seamless piece. Here's something we've started working on. Age appropriateness seems to be the biggest question that we have at times. So this is an example of an elementary school library selection guidelines. And so we're taking a look at some of the things that are listed here. And we've started to develop this for middle school and high school, but we're not finished, and I don't want to necessarily just show you that. But typically this is for students grade ages 6 to 11 years old. We shouldn't have 14-year-old books in elementary libraries. And some may have differing opinions relative to that. And I suppose if there are parents who want their kids to read older books, we may have a solution for that. But if we're sitting trying to select books, we need to be age appropriate, content appropriate. In this case, in the elementary, they should avoid books with overly mature, explicit content, including violent sexual themes or complex emotional issues. And so this just gives them a basic look at things we ought to be considering when we're looking at books. And our folks, quite frankly, didn't have this kind of guidance before, especially at the elementary level when we're talking library aides at that level. And yet at the same time, we're down here in sensitivity and inclusivity. We want to hear cultural differences. We want to know about Latino history, and we want to know about Black history. Those things are important. And so we're developing this for middle school and for high school as well. Here's an interesting piece. So let's say that we now have a book that the principal and the librarians, and by the way, they meet before they order books, and together they may have one that's a little red flag, like, I don't know. Is this appropriate? Is it not appropriate? Should we order it? Kind of came across something like this, and it deals in these major areas: mature themes, complex emotional issues, violence and conflict, sensitive topics, language and tone, sex and romance content. And so when you look at a book, if the book explores themes of addiction, bullying that are too mature for middle school students, you would give it a 1. If it was a book that seemed relevant to middle school age group and presented it in a thoughtful manner, you would get a 5. And you could have anything in between. Obviously, there's a lot of subjectivity to those kind of things, but we're trying to kind of get a top end and a low end. So as you go down to language and tone, the book contains inappropriate or offensive language for middle school students. it would get a 1. If it had a little bit, it'd get a 2. If it was just respectful and age appropriate and avoids explicit or offensive terms, it'd get a 5. And so again, as you add all these up, these 6 components, the higher the number, the more appropriate it would be for that particular age group. Same with the last one, which, most of the time when we hear of things, what we're hearing of is the violence, and we're hearing of the sexual, kind of explicit sexualness. And again, you can kind of read through that and to see what it says. That would be developed for middle school, elementary, and high school as well. So that's just kind of where we're at in that review process, trying to make it a little bit easier for our folks, and to make sure that we're certainly being appropriate. Whoops. Here's the next topic I have for you. Football Friday nights and safety. This became more apparent to me on Friday night. And so we have a section right here. Right here.
Yes.
And everybody's laughing because you know exactly what I'm talking about. But it just felt like Friday night was worse than we had seen it in a long time. And so we have a great student section. The Hive does a great job. They're in the stands. They're cheering loud, dressed for the occasion. We tend to have some younger students, and I hate to pick on age groups, but middle school students who spend a lot of time here, probably not watching the game as much as we'd like for them to be cheering on our team. It's really become kind of, hey, this is where we come to hang out. And unfortunately, when we have our older, more mature population, me included, when we want to go to the restroom or we want to go up here to the concession stand, it can be a zoo right there. And we got to clean it up. And so I wanted to bring that to your attention tonight because you may hear, what's going on with this, but we're going to meet as a secondary principals group this week, talk about how we can tighten this up here. To the point to where we might have to say, if you're going to come to the game, you need to sit in the student section. This isn't where you hang out. I mean, we have people standing on top of this, sitting on top of this, people on the back fence. We've had one fight already in here. You see a lot of just running around, and I'm afraid somebody's going to get hurt. And it may be student to student type situation, or it may be kids running into older adults that are trying to get somewhere.
Which I've seen, that corner is really tough right there to get through.
Yeah,
I mean,
and there was a lot of refuse on the grounds in that area too. And one of the kids actually stepped in some of the cheese stuff and he goes, oh, and I thought, okay, you guys need to clean up after yourself and not drop garbage on the ground.
We have to create a new expectation here, and it may mean, we've even talked as much that, we can't have you just bringing and dropping off your kids and leaving. You should come to the game with your child. Now, that's easier said than done, and we're not going to be in the parking lot trying to, hey, are you coming in with them? But we've got to do something in here. We're probably going to have some sort of an assembly type situation at the middle school, and really lay out some clear expectations. Just to give you an example, took a quick video towards the end of the game. I mean, they're just everywhere, running around. Kids running through, you'll see people standing up here. It's just become a bit more of a thoroughfare. That wasn't meant to be that all these kids just hang out here the entire game. So just wanted you to kind of be aware that that's something that we're addressing.
that's actually not very many people.
I was gonna say, I see a lot more than that in there.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I have a couple other videos, but I almost got dizzy watching
You
it.
can't cut through there. If you're trying to take a shortcut to concession stand, you can't get through there.
Well, and Mateo left. Unfortunately, he had to probably pull out of here before I was done, but, whoops. We have 3 National Merit Scholarship semifinalists. Mateo is one. We have Hannah Hofferberth and Ian Hawthorne and Mateo. And to be a semifinalist, going to the next step, to perhaps be a finalist, That's pretty great to have 3 representing Mount Vernon City Schools in this program. So, congratulations to those 3, and we hope for more exciting news to come. I think we'll have to have those youngsters back at some point in time just to recognize that outstanding accomplishment. So.
And recognize their parents and the teachers, and their teachers too.
Yeah, for sure. So anyway, that's my district update. I do have a number of board policies. These are items for information at this time, but you're going to see a number of board policies. Judy and I meet twice a year with our policymaker, Neola, and they share with us all of their updated policies. We have 2 readings for this, and so we brought you the first reading of groups A and B. Feel free to look at the overview. It'll kind of give you a synopsis. Some of this is just really simple, small changes. And some of them may be a little bit more, but things like the 3rd grade guarantee, well, that certainly has changed. And so that's why we have to change the policy related to it. So that's a first reading, and that's items for information. I do have a number of items for board approval tonight. Item 1 is what I mentioned in the library piece about our public complaints and just having an intermediary step to address the complaint, and that should be in there for you. Item 2, this only has to be read one time, and Resolution 2923 basically changes all of our board policy where it said the Ohio Department of Education, or ODE, is now DEW, Department of Education Workforce. And so it's a one-time flip. We don't need 2 readings of it. They'll go in and they'll just start to swap those things out. Because as you know, we're doing away with the Ohio Department of Education as it currently stands. And then the middle school has a couple of handbook changes. I found these interesting, and maybe you did as you looked at them. The one is earphones, and smartwatches. Smartwatches can be used in all kinds of ways. Maybe they weren't intended to be used. And so in testing purposes, we may have to address that. And then we started to have last year students who would bring blankets to school. And the first thing I thought of when I saw this was like, oh man, I'll help them get a coat or something. No, they just walked out of their house with a blanket. They came to school and they wanted to wear a blanket all day in class. And so we had to say that's just not part of our student dress code. So no more blankets to wear during the school day. Those 3 items for your approval.
Okay, I would entertain a motion to approve those items as just read.
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Workman. Do I have a second?
I can second.
Thank you, Mr. Moore. Were there any questions? Hearing none, would you call the roll, please?
Mr. Workman?
Yes.
Mr. Ward?
Yes.
Mrs. Regola-Dye?
Yes.
Mrs. Getzmann?
Yes.
Dr. Bennett?
Yes, motion carried. Thank you. Under curriculum, I have the student achievement report, and there were 3. The first 3 articles I thought were of interest. The first is the Teacher Appreciation Program, and you may know that Governor DeWine on August 12th announced this program as a career pathway for school employees in other areas to become teachers, and that would include like teachers' aides, library specialists, bus drivers, anybody who works in the schools who wants to become a teacher but can't afford to quit their job. So he's come up with a program, and eligible candidates in the teacher apprenticeship program can apply for a Grow Your Own Teacher Scholarship, which is up to $7,500 annually for 4 years, in exchange for a commitment to teach in one of the approved Ohio schools for at least 4 years. This ensures that student teachers get paid to work and provide on-the-job experience as well as staff support. And I participated in a webinar by Columbus City Schools is partnering with Capital University, and they have a program going. And the testimonials were really something about people who'd always dreamed of being a teacher and had no way of achieving that, and how they already are committed to their community And they know the kids. They're going to stay in the district. They're not going to, get their teacher's certificate and then leave. So it's really helped them because Columbus City Schools is really suffering with not enough teachers. So I don't know that we're there yet. We've been very fortunate, but it's something, I know we have colleges in the area that possibly we could partner with. So just a thought for you to think about. The second article is loss of automatic medical record, Medicaid renewal. And the Center for Medicare and Medicaid suggests that schools help families maintain their health services and be aware of the change in the public health policy through letters, robocalls, and text messages, social media, etc. And that families need to annually complete renewal paperwork now, and they may not receive notification. If their address is changed, they may not receive any notification of that. So the burden is on school districts now to help notify parents. And I know that that's important for us to receive that too.
Mm-hmm.
And then the third article is the Read Ohio program. And this focuses on the science of reading to enhance literacy skills for students of all ages. And we had a wonderful presentation by Columbia School on this initiative. And this website I thought was pretty unique. If you'll click on that, and if you go to topics and literacy, okay, and then there are a number of links. If you click on Read Ohio, where it says quick links on the left.
Oh, there you go, sorry.
And then there are a number of links that explain the science of reading, and they have a webinar that you can actually watch that if parents are interested in wanting to know more about this, or we have some math students here if they'd like to know more about it. You can get on the ohio.gov website and read more about it. And also it has, if you keep scrolling down, there's some other links. Why science reading of reading is important, and it has tips for superintendents and a number of links. If you keep scrolling, you'll see for educators and principals. And if you keep going, it has tips for families. And if you stop there, you can see, you can visit the Science of Reading program. You can see facts. There's the reading webinar, Literacy Academy on Demand, some dyslexia supports if you have a child that has dyslexia. So there are just a lot of really neat resources. So I wanted to point that out. Board members want to take some time to go through it. It's a lot of really good information. So, and we're already doing this. I'm really proud of our district for taking the initiative. Thank you. Any questions? Okay.
I think it's to get a little bit ahead of the game on the science of reading, I think was a challenging start for us. This year we only had to have our K-1 teachers kind of moving forward with the science of reading and the dyslexia components. We chose last year to go straight K-5. We wanted them all to jump in together. That way they could have a building level collaborative conversations around the science of reading. So we're actually almost 2 years ahead of where we're supposed to be. But there's been an excitement and an enthusiasm, and we felt like getting them all engaged. Now I've got 3rd and 4th and 5th grade teachers who are wanting to incorporate some of this stuff. And I think in some ways that's where you're starting to see some of those gains. You look at Dan
I
Emmett.
was just going to say the achievement are probably
The Dan Emmett, they were actually even a little earlier adopters. I mean, they kind of started this just a half a year before as a whole district we did, because Margie was forward thinking in that realm. And I think even our most ardent literacy collaborative whole language learners, and we were very tied into that for a long time, are seeing some of the benefits of this kind of phonics-based science of reading approach. So I think it's good.
Kudos to our teachers.
Absolutely, yeah.
I have only one item for board approval tonight in this section. It's an FFA trip that'll be at the end of the week. It's a Green Hand Camp. And if you don't know what a green hand is, it's a first-year FFA member, and they're going to Camp Muskingum for a retreat. And hopefully that builds our FFA leaders for tomorrow.
I would entertain a motion to approve that.
So moved.
Thank you, Ms. Regola-Dye. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Thank you, Mrs. Getzmann. Were there any questions? Would you call the roll, please?
Mrs. Regola-Dye?
Yes.
Mrs. Getzmann?
Yes.
Mr. Ward?
Yes.
Mr. Workman?
Yes.
Dr. Bennett?
Yes, motion carried. Thank you. And fiscal services.
Okay, I don't have just too many things to go over. There were a couple of things I just wanted to point out this time, if you want to scroll down. Thank you, Bill. Our ending balance for the end of August, if you want to scroll down just a little bit more, was almost $22 million. That's a lot. That's mostly because of being able to use the COVID money to take care of some of the other expenses over the last couple of years. So that won't stay that high for a long time, but for the next few years, we're doing pretty well with that. So I just wanted to point that out. The next one is sort of relates to that. This is interest on our investments. This is for 2 months of 2024. We're up to $102,000 already. And we only have a small amount invested with the actual investment companies that we work with. So we're going to actually move some more money over into that. So that should be a pretty healthy number by the time we get to the end of the fiscal year. We're working with Meter, working with Park National. Star Ohio is connected in with the Ohio Treasurer's Office. They have an account too that are paying now 5.5%, and that's not even tied up money. That's just like a checking account. So we could put it there and get 5.5, and within a day we can have it back in our checking account. So we're gonna diversify that a little bit. So you'll be able to see that that's gonna fill in there pretty nicely. This report, I'm sure you're used to it, and I saw it the whole time I was here, saw while Gary was here, just takes our forecasted numbers. Now, those numbers are from, Bill. Those numbers are from 2024 from Gary's May forecast. So none of those have been updated. Some on the revenue side, there will be some changes to those, but just shows through the first 2 months what percentage we've collected. That's on that. Keep in mind on the property tax and the tangible personal property, we only get that twice a year. So that's why we already got so much of that in comparison, and also on the rollback. And then on the expenditures, those are more in line with 2 months worth of expenditures for the year. But back up to the first two there, working on the November forecast. There'll be a new forecast for you to approve in November. And the main thing that I'm waiting for now is for, and I'm sure you probably have read about it, the valuations on our properties. And when we get those, then we'll be able to plug those in, and there'll be some changes on the revenue side. We don't know exactly what yet, but those will be coming. The next one is just a graphic of the investments. There's money in there from the general fund. That's this part. And then Gary had put some money from the self-insurance fund, and that would be this amount. So there's about 3.2 million in there now of the 21, which is really not enough. We need to get more of that in a better investment. Right now it's sitting in Park, mostly paying about 2.75. So we can do better than that.
Absolutely, yeah.
The rest of the reports are the ones that you get every month if you have any questions. Basically just a summary of all the funds and then your receipts. And we always give you a list of all the checks that were written in case you wonder, well, we spent all that money this month. So, and that's all I have for that. If there's any questions, I'll real quick go to the donations. We have a donation to Dan Emmett from Beals. Did we find out if that's a store?
It is a
The store, okay. Yes. Okay, so Beals donated some backpacks to Dan Emmett. This donation of $50 to help pay for student lunches to Twin Oak. And we have a donation from Craig and Lottie Shira, $50 in the memory of Mike Small to the high school FFA. FAA. Should it be FFA?
FFA.
FFA, that's what I thought.
Yeah, it should be FFA.
Yeah.
That's how I read it, even though it didn't say that. And these others are also to the FFA, $50 in the memory of Mike Small from Wayne and Candy Noggle, $100 in the memory of Mike Small to Lance and Karen Spearman, and $500 in memory of Mike Small to from PMG Trucking to the FFA. And then we have 2 to Dan Emmett, miscellaneous classroom and clinic items from Hopewell United Methodist Church. And they donated some crayons and pencils and other items that you can see there. So that's all I have. Are there any questions?
Did you mention the Pleasant Street?
Yes.
Okay.
Oh, I didn't see that. That's not on mine because I printed it out. I'm sorry. Social work services from Gay Street United Methodist to Pleasant Street. Actually, I did see that check today, so I should have remembered that, but that's the last one. Thank you, Margie. Sorry.
Okay, we need to approve the donations as read. Do I have a motion to do that?
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Ward. Do I have a second? Mr. Workman, thank you. And we're very grateful for any donations.
Absolutely.
And I would just say that donations to this, on behalf of Mike Small, it's in memory of him, of course, and I know that FFA program is very, very near and dear to the Small families. And so it was very kind of them when they listed his contributions to include the FFA. And it kind of goes hand in hand with that Green Hand trip that they're making this weekend with Stephanie, so very kind.
Thanks for sharing that. Okay, would you call the roll, please?
Mr. Ward?
Yes.
Mr. Workman?
Yes.
Mrs. Regola Dye?
Yes.
Mrs. Gessman?
Yes.
Dr. Bennett?
Yes, motion carried. Thank you. And Mrs. Gulladye, our legislative liaison.
Thank you. The House and Senate, State House and Senate came back into session this week, and there were several amendments made by the House Primary and Secondary Education Committee to SB 49. This enacts the religious and expression days. The school board would be required to adopt a policy providing up to 3 days for religious accommodations. And then the committee also included changes to the definition of chronic absenteeism in that bill. SB 17, there were 2 readings the committee held. It would update the standards and curriculum for financial literacy. In other legislation, HB 235 would make changes to membership and election to State Board of Education. HB 250 would revise the military enlistment diploma seal. HB 187 is in regard to taxes to be amended. New bills included HB 263, which would authorize a freeze on property taxes for certain homes. HB 266 would require school districts to update emergency management plans to include individuals with disabilities. 267 would provide elections for school board members to be moved from nonpartisan ballot to partisan ballot. SB 153 temporarily modifies the method for valuing farmland and other properties for tax purposes. And then in federal reports, the Senate Appropriations Committee passed the bipartisan Labor, Health, and Human Services to Education spending bill. In the House, there is a counter bill that could cut Department of Education spending by $22.1 billion and could cut Title I and Title II funding. In other news, the Department of Education launched the Kindergarten Sturdy Bridge Community. This is a multi-state effort to make kindergarten a transformational experience, which I thought all of our kindergarten teachers already do. But are there any questions or comments or ideas that you want me to take to the State House and our representative? Let me know. Thank you.
Thank you.
I always find it interesting to hear some of the bills that are out there and what they want us to do and not do. And we haven't even gotten the financial literacy thing up and running yet. It's going to be for 2 years from now, and now we have to include free market capitalism content.
Yes.
We'll see how the legislation goes. Under this item for board approval tonight, we have a number of facility requests item. Girl Scout Troops 7502 at Wigan Street. They want to use the cafeteria after school, Tuesdays through May. Mount Vernon Sting Soccer, item B, and down actually, it's just, this thing is just there for Twin Oaks Gymnasium, and that actually ends here on October 12th. But I've got 4th grade basketball and 5th grade basketball both wanting to use Twin Oaks Gymnasium, one on Tuesday and one on Wednesday. Good News Club using the cafeteria after school at Twin Oaks. And then Holly Frackwood does, it's called Camp Read A Lot. She does that from 3:30 to 11 p.m. She used to spend the night at East, but now they kick them out at 11, I guess. But I'll tell you what, the kids really, really enjoy that. And so Holly kind of leads that up. She does a great job with that. So those items A through F for your approval.
Okay, I would entertain a motion to approve the facility request.
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Gulladye. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Thank you, Mrs. Getzmann. Were there any questions? Would you call the roll, please?
Mrs. Regola-Dye?
Yes.
Mrs. Getzmann?
Yes.
Mr. Ward?
Yes.
Mr. Workman?
Yes.
Dr. Bennett?
Yes. Motion carried. Thank you. And under student services, will you be doing that this evening?
I will. So item for information, again, you've seen this before, but it's the information for determination of transport and practicality. We put that up there again because we do have a couple of additional students who kind of fall under that guise. And so item B, we're approving transportation to be provided by a number of parents who are linked there. Item 2 in this section is to approve EJ Therapy to also support us in some audiology services. We're short right now. And finally, item 3, we have so many students right now in the pipeline to get ETRs, or their, to be assessed for an IEP, that we have to even go outside with getting some school psychology testing services. So, and again, as you well know, we're down to 1 school psychologist. We've got a company out of Mansfield supporting us, but even that in some instances isn't enough. So those 3 items for your approval.
Okay, thank you. I would entertain a motion to approve those student services 3 items as read.
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Gulladye. Do I have a
I'll second.
Thank you. Were there any questions? Hearing none, would you call the roll, please?
Mrs. Regola-Dye?
Yes.
Mr. Workman?
Yes.
Mr. Ward?
Yes.
Mrs. Getzmann?
Yes.
Dr. Bennett?
Yes, motion carried. Thank you. Personnel, certificated, and licensed staff.
Okay, our final 2 sections of tonight. This is our personnel certificated licensed staff. Just a number of items for information there. Salary change notices for those individuals. Item B are items for board approval tonight. The first is for employment. We have a number of stipends, and so over the course of the summer, we offered stipends to reading specialists in the science of reading. And we needed level 1 certification folks in the Wilson reading system, as well as OG certification. And so those stipends are there. We have a number of substitute contracts just to put on the agenda. And then here you go already, we're looking at winter supplemental contracts. So that's why you're seeing kind of basketball and those wintertime activities. Quite a few of those listed for you. And under extracurricular, we have this old fellow who wants to continue to be a wrestling coach. So I guess we'll support him.
Absolutely.
And then we have a number of lay persons doing pupil activity contracts. Those are the positions that are still open, even after advertising goes internally. And so you'll see a list of those who want to take on those supplementals here at the bottom. And then we have 2 volunteers for the coming year. Items A through F for your approval tonight.
We have an entertain a motion to approve those items. Thank you, Mr. Ward. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Thank you, Mrs. Getzmann. Were there any questions?
No questions, but that's a lot of work. Thank you very much.
Absolutely.
For all of that.
Never ends.
Well, and it's just, I mean, it's great to see the list of
Yes.
teachers that are going above and beyond
Yes.
to help our students in multiple ways, so.
And if they didn't, unfortunately, we wouldn't have some of the programs that we
Absolutely.
have. And so that's why it's so important for them to do those
Right.
things, you know.
Absolutely. Would you call the roll, please?
Mr. Ward?
Yes.
Mrs. Getzmann?
Yes.
Mr. Workman?
Yes.
Mrs. Regola-Dye?
Yes.
Dr. Bennett?
Yes, motion carried. Thank you. And classifieds.
Our final section for tonight, no items for information, number of items for board approval. We have a number of employment folks who are coming on board. Custodians, cooks, and aides are your list, your first list. Number of 2-year contracts. And we have a number of pupil activity extracurricular contacts for video announcements. Some substitutes, and we're always in the for substitutes. And then we have 1 resignation for your approval tonight.
I would entertain a motion to approve the staff items as read.
So moved. Oop, you beat me.
Thank you,
I'll
Mr.
second.
Workman.
I'll second.
Thank you, Mrs. Regola-Dye. Were there any questions? Would you call the roll, please?
Mr. Workman?
Yes.
Mrs. Regola-Dye?
Yes.
Mr. Ward?
Yes.
Mrs. Getzmann?
Yes.
Dr. Bennett?
Yes, motion carried. Thank you. Now we're to board member comments, and I guess I would just like to say something about the achievement. I'm just so proud of our teachers and administrators, and thank you so much for presenting that in such a clear way so everyone can understand. I'm really proud of our school district. All the hard work that's going on. Mrs. Getz.
I would just echo the same when I had the opportunity to look through all of that. And some of the leaps and bounds that some of our buildings have made is just phenomenal. And it's not easy to get there. So that's a lot of extra hard work, even before and after school, not just during the school day. So kudos to all of those teachers for going above and beyond.
And I'm glad you pointed out, as you increase, it just becomes that much
Harder
to
to,
do.
yeah, right.
Because the efficiency score keeps going up as well,
Absolutely.
so. Very challenging.
Absolutely.
Mrs. Regola-Dye.
Thank you. Thank you to everyone coming, and especially our young people. We need you, so hang in there. We desperately need you to continue the work of public education in Ohio and across the country. I'd also like to congratulate the entire staff and our students on Friday evening's festivities at the football field, honoring our military and our first responders. Especially kudos to our athletic director, Justin. And thank you again to the staff on all that hard work. And I'd like to compliment our athletes. It's not easy to continue working hard, and our coaches, when you stumble. But that's part of the learning process, and that's why extracurriculars are so important for our public schools. I'd also like to give a shout out to our Spanish teacher advisor, Mayamani Rivera, at the football stadium. The Spanish club sponsors these items that have been made by extremely poor women in other countries. And the profit goes back to those small companies where women are trying to better their lives and the lives of their families. So thank you to them sponsoring that. And they also have some really cool bracelets too that they get. So thank you again to everyone, and thank you to our community for all the support. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Ward.
Well, I too want to recognize our administration, our school faculty, and kids in the performance results. That information became public sometime last week, and I probably had a message to Bill within about 2 minutes saying, wow, well done.
Yeah.
And, it's one of those proud moments. And, you see the schools that are making progress, and you see our other schools that are maintaining their strength at the same time. You said you could only get to a 5. Well, we have a number that are there. But I see the others, and and over the course of this past year, we've had the schools come in at our monthly meetings, and you can start to pick up on some of the things that they're doing that are lending to the improvements. And it's just really reassuring to see that, so kudos to everybody in the process.
Mr. Workman.
Last but not least.
Definitely.
Yes, thank you for the students. I don't know if you had to be here till the very end, but that was part of the school plan, but thank you for doing that. And certainly keep doing what you're doing, so thank you. I really enjoyed hearing about the partnership with the Y. I really think it was so sincere what Nick and Emily had talked about. Trying to form collaborations with different organizations. I understand that, and this one definitely worked. I mean, they were very clear about that, and to see some of the pictures with the kids and the enjoyment that they had from that was really neat. One of the things Mary brought up, I think would be a good idea too. I don't know if they would do this more through the Y, but promoting those scholarships, I didn't know anything about those. That would be a great idea to help. I know they want to incrementally grow it, and we don't want to load up too fast, but to help some of these kids that may need some financial assistance to do that, I think that would be a great idea, and I'm sure the community would really help with that. So I thought that would be a good idea. The grade card, that was excellent. The one thing that really came to mind, you know, we all heard right after COVID that that's really going to hurt kids. It's going to slow down their learning process. We'll never be back to where we are. Look at that. Not true. And so that's the first thing that came to mind when I saw the progress in the last couple of years, is that it didn't slow us down. In fact, we're getting better from that. So that was really encouraging. And lastly, you know, congratulations to the 3 students for the national. That to have 3, to have 1 is really good.
Yeah,
To have 3, that's excellent. So, but well done there.
I forgot something.
Go ahead.
The last word.
Yes, I don't think any of the progress we've had or the extracurriculars and the wonderful things that are happening could have happened without great leadership. And that includes our superintendent, Mr. Cedar. I once said that he's like that redwood tree when we were going through COVID, that nothing was going to knock him down, and it didn't. So thank you, sincere thank you for the leadership that you've shown through these years, and we're very, very glad that you're here.
Yeah. I think
And
we
we're
all
glad
can
you-
echo that.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Great group to work with.
All right.
I have seen no need for executive session tonight.
Fantastic. In that case, I would entertain a motion for adjournment.
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Bodie. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
We have lots of seconds.
We all second.
All right, seconds, okay. Would you call the roll, please?
There's no discussion about that?
That's a
Mrs. Regola Dye?
Yes.
Mr. Ward?
Yes.
Mr. Workman?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, motion carried, and we are adjourned, and thank you, students, for coming.
You guys